Hey guys, me and Santa are in Clarkesville, Georgia. We're at the Miles Through Time Automotive Museum. I think this one's going to be a bit special. Let's go take a look. Alright, let's start off with a 1922 Ford Model T center door. Original price of a Model T in 1922 was $269 to $398. Yep, it's Christmas time around here. Obviously the price depended on the model you had and the configuration essentially. But look at that, what a Model T, fantastic. We're moving up 2 years now to a Model T Coupe, very stylish. As Henry Ford said, you can have it in any color you like as long as it's black. So going back to 1915 now, this is a Model T 3-door touring. Presumably a ex-police car. There is no door on the driver's side. So 2 doors at the back, 1 door on the passenger side, and that's your lot. So just to prove that the Model T was incredibly versatile, this is a pickup, 1927 Model T Roadster pickup. By 1924, Ford had produced 10 million Model Ts. So things were getting pretty advanced in the late 20s with Ford, and they came up in 1930 with the Model A Coupe Deluxe. Original price $545. Ford produced just over 1.5 million Model A's. This one being the rumble seat. So this one's from 1 year earlier, 1929. Model A 4-door. Note the different hood ornament on this one. Then next door to it is a Woody, basically a station wagon from 1930. And then 1931, a Model A Tudor. So what was Ford's competition in the very early 20s? Well, this was a 1920 Dodge Brothers 30 Roadster. A little bit flashier than the Model T. $1,250 this cost when it was new. And that same year, Oldsmobile were coming up with a Light 8. So this was getting a little bit pricier. This was $1,700 new. This is a Model 45. And obviously a bit more spacious than some of the Model Ts, so we're moving a little bit up market with the Oldsmobile here. In 1925, this Model T Tudor rolled off the production line and headed to its first owner, Mr. Gregory in Chatsworth, Georgia, and it remains totally unrestored. So it serves as a great comparison with the restored Model Ts that they have here. Hoover for president. Alright, so what were the French doing in the mid-30s? Well, they were coming up with something like this. It's called a Mathis M4S Cabriolet. And if I'm entirely honest, I've never heard of this car. I like the windshield. Open the windshield for a bit of ventilation. There we go, mid-30s, 1935 Mathis ME4S. If I've not pronounced it correctly, please let me know. So 1953, what would $1,500 buy you? Well, it would buy you this Ford Custom Line. Power steering, power brakes, all the gear, and this one is absolutely immaculate. 2-door, 1953. And 1 year later, and another $1,000 will buy you this beautiful 4-door Buick Century. Spent a lot of its life in Florida before it finally arrived in Georgia. Still got a Florida plate on it. So staying in the mid-50s, 1953. This kind of looks like something a bank manager would have driven back then, because it's going to cost you more than the Buick, about another $1,000 more than the Buick. $3,740. This is a Packard Patriot. Loads of chrome, very stylish. So towards the end of the 50s, 1958, Studebaker were coming up with this model, the Golden Hawk. We've got to look at those fins. Fins were really happening towards the end of the 50s. Oh, I like the twin aerials at the back. I doubt they were standard, but they look pretty good. Oh God, it's beautiful, isn't it? Just stunning. Let's have a look inside. Yeah, Studebaker in '64 were producing the Avanti, which to me, sorry, is not really grabbing me style-wise. Oh, I'll tell you what I've noticed, the bonnet bulge. How often do you see that is only on the driver's side and connects right into the instrument binnacle there? Well, that's quite innovative. The wing mirrors designed to tear apart the pedestrian on impact. I guess they didn't really worry about that. Okay, look, I've got to hand it to them. That's pretty nice. Studebaker Avanti. Just don't like the front end styling, but the rest of it, fantastic. Look at the rear quarter light there. Stand out of the way. The rear quarter light, really nice. Back window, you know, it's not as big, but it kind of reminds me of a Jensen Interceptor. And let's have a look around the rear end. Things on the fin front have got very conservative by the mid-60s, but actually that's a beautiful rear end, and that's really nice. Studebaker Avanti. Apart from the front end styling, I really like that. Yeah, and talking of things that don't really do it for me, the DeLorean doesn't really do it for me either, but it's in the museum here, so I'm going to show it anyway. So DeLorean in 1981 was charging $25,000 for the privilege of owning this car of questionable quality, let's just put it that way. Okay, now we're getting serious. 1964 Porsche 356C. This was originally bought as a race car. You can see this car in the November 2022 issue of Panorama, pages 60 to 70. 1964 Porsche 356C. Now guys, this is some car. This is just beautiful. Predating the 356C, the 356B from 1960. And again, I'll just put up the information. You can pause the video if you want to have a bit more of a read about this particular car. Whilst the 356C did race, it's got much more of a road car look about it than the 356B here. Porsche Super 90. Wow. Moving on from the 356C, the 356SC from 1965. This museum is fast exceeding my expectations. put ads in this video thanks to the music that's playing in the background, unfortunately, but there we go. Porsche SC from 1965. I like the way they describe the MGB here from 1964. These little British cars. Yep, I know they're small, but I tell you what, this MGB ain't nearly as small as a Frog Eye Sprite, which is another car I didn't expect to see in this wonderful museum. Notice there's no trunk or boot on the Frog Eye. It's all sealed up. A friend of mine, Kim Peterson, had a Frog Eye Sprite in his garage. It was he wanted to restore. Not sure if Kim ever got around to doing that. So the luggage space, you just basically shove what you've got behind the seats. Come on guys, you've got to admit this is a characterful car, isn't it? Guess the year? Frog Eye Sprite? 1958. So in the 60s, Colin Chapman came up with the Lotus Elan, and then in the 80s, Mazda basically took the basic design and modernized it. What didn't modernize it? It was ground up. But they came up with this. It's called a Miata in the US. We call it an MX-5 in the UK. But seriously, it gave you all the fun and benefits of these cars from the 60s in a modern package with modern brakes, modern powertrain, all the rest of it. It really was a massive hit, and still is. That's the Miata. This one's from 1990. And a decade later, next to the Miata, is the Honda, high-revving Honda 2000. This is not a 2003 model. I tell you, somebody paid $32,600 for this when it was new. Whoa! Back in 2000 and what was it, 3? That's quite a lot of money. Honda S2000. Back in 1971, this little Fiat 500L was $1,500. And they're a little bit more than that now. Really getting quite popular. I'm not even sure if I could sit in that or get in it. And like most of the cars in this museum, another stunning example. This museum just goes on and on. 62 Ford Galaxy 500. I've seen a few of these in junkyards around the country. This one, thank goodness, has been saved. Beautiful Galaxy 500. 1961, a Plymouth Suburban. You could call that a wagon with character. Not just because of the colour, because of the styling. Why do we have wagons anymore? Why is everyone into SUVs? Look at the space in the back of that. You could camp in that. I love the instruments in the 60s. Again, heaps of character. What's this? 56 Lincoln Premier. Yep, I've seen these in junkyards, scrap yards too. Yeah, I love the no B-pillar in this one. Kind of reminds me of a Jaguar XJ-C. Anyone watch Harry's Garage and watch Harry restore his Jaguar XJ-C? Mercury Comet. Well, I've got a thing about Mercury Comets. This is a 1965. So Mercury Comet started out in 1960. Designed, or originally supposed to be an Edsel. Then Edsel went under. So Ford just sold it as the Comet. They sold it in Mercury dealerships. And the first year or two of the Mercury Comet, they didn't have any Mercury badging on the cars. It was just Comet only. I guess they just stripped it of the Edsel and didn't bother putting Mercury on it until about 62, I think. So no prizes for guessing what this is. I came across one of these at Old Car City just last week. It's a 59 two-door coupe, Series 62. Again with those infamous, no, they're not infamous, famous bullet tail lights at the back. Yeah, I'll probably get abused in the comments, but I've never really been a Corvette kind of person. But for the Corvette fans, I'll run through this lineup. So 1961, $4,000 bought you this beautiful Corvette. Yep, it's beautiful. Never really been into them. 2 years later, it looked like this. You paid another $300, $4,300 for one of these. Is this the split rear window? Yes, it is. Yeah, okay. I agree. It's a great design. And if I had to go in one, I'd probably love it. But I've never even sat inside a Corvette. 64, well, that was called a Corvette, the 63. In 64 they called it a Corvette Stingray. But they didn't put the price up. So the Corvette Stingray, did that have the one-piece rear window? Yes, it does. So that's the 64. There it is, that's the 63. And by 1972 it looked like this. Corvette Stingray Coupe T-top. Yeah, okay. This is a very smart 64 Impala SS convertible with, I think it's got a 327 in it, 250 horsepower. Yep, 327, 250 horsepower. It says automatic, I think that goes without saying, doesn't it? This is a very, very smart car. Back end of the Impala SS. That's nice. Okay, muscle car dudes, a 1974 Super Duty Transam with the eagle on the hood. And I'm guessing that's 455 cubic inches. They were more common in black, weren't they? Okay, what's this, guys? Name the year. 1970. Buick Grand Sport. So if that's a 1970 Buick Grand Sport, what year is that one? 72. And this one, back to 1970. Now even I have a clue that this is something a little bit special. The 1970 Torino Super Cobra Jet, which with a few modifications could produce more than 500 horsepower. So this is real muscle. It's certainly real muscle for 1970. There's a little bit of a black hole inside. Oh, look at that, what I'd call a fastback. Look at it. Yeah, I can't move away from this Super Cobra Jet. Originally came with 360 horsepower, the Thunderjet V8 and a 4-speed top loader transmission. But you could add for $155, you got the Super Cobra Jet engine, and that gave you about 429 horsepower, and then with a few other modifications you could bring it up to 500 horsepower. So back in 1970, how much would you pay for this? And the answer is $3,818. Alright, talking of something special, this is a 1968 Shelby GT350. Slightly unusual story with this car is it was sent to Japan. Spent the majority of its life in Japan. When it finally came back to the States, it was without a motor. So it was restored here by a chap called Sean Mathis. 68 Ford Shelby 350. And next to the 68 Shelby 350, Mustang GT500. Whoa, that is nice. Funnily enough, these two Shelbys are the only, and probably quite rightly so, these two Shelbys are the only cordoned off, if you can call that a cordoned off cars in the whole museum. And I'm not surprised. Anyone put a value on this car? Ain't gonna be cheap. Actually, I prefer the interior of the 67 when compared to this 68. Still, I wouldn't complain. Well, I thought that was excellent. The Mustangs, the Porsches, far exceeded my expectations. Clarkesville, Georgia, if you get the opportunity, come down and take a look for yourself. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.